Shalom and welcome to Zion Flex TV. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and share the live stream. Become a member of Zion Lex TV and unlock several hidden features and hidden videos. Also, you can donate to Zion Lex TV at Cash App $ZionLex or via PayPal at zionlex@gmail.com. We also have an online academy entitled Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. Visit us on patreon.com/learntorah. Our Gold Tier membership gives you unlimited access to our special event lectures and our special live movie nights. Our Platinum Tier gives you unlimited access to our Torah class, Kabbalah class, Patriarchs and Matriarchs of the Covenant classes, as well as understanding the New Testament via the Oral Tradition class. Our Diamond Tier gives you unlimited access to all of the previous tiers, as well as our most sought-after class, our Biblical Hebrew course. And finally, our highest tier, our Sapphire Tier, gives you unlimited access to all previous tiers, as well as our highly esteemed rabbinical course. Be sure to sign up today and check your tier membership so as to ensure you're getting access to the classes you desire. Thank you for visiting us here at Zion Lex TV, and now back to our current live stream.
All right. Shalom, shalom, Chief Rabbi. It's been a long time coming. First and foremost, all honor, esteem, and praise to the Holy One of Israel, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One of Israel. Blessed be his name. And I also want to shout out and pay homage to our guest and also our co-host of Zion Lex TV, Torah Conversation Podcast, Rabbi Mordechai. Shalom, shalom, Chief Rabbi. How are you doing?
How you doing, brother? Yeah, it's been a long time, and the great thing is when there's a distance between people in time and space, and then they reunite. They get to reminisce on the great times that they have, but there's also this excitement of this new person that they get to meet, and these new ideas and continue this journey of relationship.
That's so very true. I mean, I couldn't possibly start without addressing what I'm going to say is the elephant in the room. The rockets' red glare. I mean, you're in Eretz Israel right now, and I don't mean to be humorous because I know this is a very serious thing, but it's wartime right now, essentially. Could you be our eyes, be our ear, be our five senses, and tell us what's been going on in Eretz Israel since the rockets have been flying?
So let's go into it. And the thing about it is so connected, even like to this week's Torah portion, right? This week's Torah portion is all about the calculations of going into a land and conquering a land and the whole dynamic. But I will tell you about a near-death experience that I had, right? And this is like a real situation. And it just so happened. So right now you can see I'm outdoors, right? So if you look, from this angle, okay, I was standing right where I'm at. I'm on my balcony right now, right? And on this angle, Friday night, I am standing right here, right? And there was the drones were coming in, missiles, the whole thing, right? Bah, 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 the whole thing, right? So I come outside and then see in my place, I'll give you a glimpse. So inside, you'll see inside my place, I have actually a bomb shelter inside of my place. The way it's built, it has that, right? And so the thing is that Friday night when the whole thing happened, I'm standing out here, and then as the way you see my hand, I'm pointing there. There's literally a suicide drone coming right towards me, right? This whole neighborhood. You see all these balconies, all these people. Everyone's out on their balconies.
Wow!
It's literally fireworks, right? So it's coming right at me, right? And we're like, whoa! It's getting closer. It's getting closer. You can hear, bzzz, you can hear the whole thing, right? And so it's getting close. I'm talking about it's feet away, bro. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, wait, that's a suicide drone. That thing is coming right here. And out of nowhere, a F-35 plane comes in, boom, shoots it, explosion. And everyone, you can't see the whole street here, but everyone on this whole block is on their porches cheering. and yelling and singing Shabbos songs because we just had a drone coming right at us, right here. It's coming down and is at the end, because where I live is like very close to the Knesset. And I also live close to the Prime Minister Netanyahu. It's not far away. I mean, at least his house, one of his houses at least, is over here. And so, yeah, so I'm like, this is a major area of target, right? And so like all the, I don't know if you could see these balconies, but they were packed full of people, and everyone's cheering this, and then everyone starts singing Shabbat songs all together at the same time as this whole thing happened. And so I was talking to some of my students about it in America, this whole experience. And one of my students said something that was really profound, and he was just saying like how like that was like a frame of redemption. Right, because I'm not supposed to be here right now. If it wasn't for the Israeli Air Force, I am not here right now. If it's not for those amazing weapons that were made in the United States by Boeing and all these other manufacturers, I would not be here right now. We wouldn't have the technology, and we're just here serving God, right? And so it's a real situation. It seems like. Is going to escalate, but I'll say like this: as an American, I would say that if Iran gained a nuclear weapon, they are not like just some people say, "Hey, we want to have our own weapon, negotiate at the table." They want to distribute these nuclear weapons to terrorist cells around the world and give them the ability to launch nuclear weapons, right? And Iran having a nuclear weapon does not allow us to exert the influence that we need to have in this region that allows us to allow like the world, like when you think about the American people, you're thinking about a community of people that like we have our problems as Americans, right? But we're more connected, we're more accepting, we're more inclusive. We're more vibrant. We're talking about a society where Black people were not even considered humans, to the point that Black people are in positions that dictate and influence the future of the country's progression, right? We've evolved to that. So it's not saying America's perfect, but the system of the United States has the desire for perfection, right? And that's what all societies should strive for, is human perfection. So what we're dealing with here is that, and just to move on, maybe past this, but just one last point on this issue. When you look at what's going on right now, Donald Trump, we're not getting into politics, okay? But you asked me about it, we're talking about it. Donald Trump comes to the Gulf countries. He comes back. He meets with the Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar. He comes back. And what does he say? He says, hey, you know what? The biggest enemy to the Gulf states is what? Iran, right? When you think about this dynamic of what's going on in the Middle East, because people think it's like an Israel against the Muslim thing, or Israel. No, it's not about that. Saudi Arabia is in partnership with Israel on this. Bahrain is in partnership. The UAE is in partnership. Jordan is in partnership. Egypt is in partnership. Syria has opened its airspace. Why? Because the Middle East wants to be unified. They want to be unified. People have no idea how much resources like water and electricity Israel provides for Jordan and Egypt. There's so many partnerships that exist in this region. The trade that's going to open up in Syria is unbelievable. The point is saying that what we're seeing here is a unification, not war. We're seeing a unification, and the people that are resistance to this unification, that's the people that we're fighting against. Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran, the Houthis in Yemen, all these different people, they're resisting unification, right? So it's important to understand, this is what's going on. You're seeing the Middle East becoming brotherhood. Jews, Christians, Muslims, all coming together. It's happening. It started with Abraham Accord. So anyways, I just want to say that, but it's a very important thing, because in this week's Torah portion, it talks about two frames of references, right? It talks about the frame of reference of the fear of going into unknown territory, fear of going into your greatness, and it has the idea of the certainty of the greatness. And so Moshe had the certainty of the greatness, and the people, some of the people did not have that certainty. And so that's the conflict that we're dealing with right now. And it's the same conflict we're dealing with today, right? We're dealing with, is it okay to accept that the United States and the West needs to be dominant in the world? Or do we want to say, like, no, everything should just be, equal, kumbaya, this whole thing, let everyone do as they want to do? Do we want to accept that? Do we want to accept Israel's role in the world? Do we want to accept Israel's role as part of the redemption of humanity? Is the coming of the Mashiach is the rising of Israel as a nation, the redemption, the redeeming of the lost, the exiles and all these things. So if we believe in these things, and we're seeing what we're seeing on the news, and they're trying to make it look like we're the aggressors, we're the ones doing that, we have to refer to the Bible. So use Alex.
All right. On this topic, I have some views as well. They're a little mixed, and here's where we balance our dialogue. I want to first and foremost say, Baruch Hashem, blessed be His name, that our brothers and sisters in the land are covered. Let's thank Hashem for that our brothers and sisters in the land are absolutely covered. I realize I'm aware of the role of military and armed forces in the aid and protection of a land. But I'm also aware of Psalms 124. If it had not been for the Lord who has been on our side. So we give the thanks to Hashem. We thank that the Creator has seen it fit to make sure and ensure that His people always remain safe, even in the midst of war. I also want to say, just to kind of bring, I don't want to say a counter view as much as I want to say a diverse view representing all of the full spectrum of our audience. I got to shake things up a bit, Chief Rabbi. I am not pro
that debate spirit. Let's get that debate spirit. Let's go.
Just a little bit.
Let's go.
I am not pro Iran at all. Not at the furthest or shortest stretch. Nor am I necessarily pro Netanyahu. Right. I'm neither pro Iran nor am I pro Netanyahu, but I am pro of Israel existing, and I am pro of God's people always being safe and covered. I'm certainly pro that, and I am for world peace. But I want to say that in watching the news media, it's interesting how these things play out in real time, because certainly we're aware of Iran wanting to acquire nuclear weapons to arm themselves as well as other nations, and even those nations that we know have a track record of being immersed and engulfed in weapons of terrorist acts. However, what the media doesn't always necessarily report fairly or balance is how this war actually began. We were told on the United States and that Iran is going crazy with bombs, not realizing that it's a response. Israel launched Operation Lion, where they sent out, a military strike first. It was a preemptive strike. So, I mean, with all due respect, Iran has a right to respond. Just from the point of sovereignty, the protection of a nation, they have all right to respond. So I want to first say that. I'm also thankful that with their response, our brothers and sisters in the land are covered. And what I want to say in this respect is that the state of Israel, as led by Netanyahu, has to be very careful, right? Because we talk in world news forums about certain rogue nations developing nuclear weaponry for the sake of launching a terrorist attack. But here's the reality, Chief Rabbi. There's only one nation in the earth that has ever used a nuclear weapon. And that's the United States of America. And they did so in World War II, the bombing of Japan, right? Hiroshima. We're the only nation, America is the only nation that ever used a nuclear weapon for war, in war. Israel has not used one. No one in the Middle East has used one. It's only America. But America has this fancy of, and slowly growing, the state of Israel as led by Netanyahu. And I have to be very keen in the way I word that, because I am not anti-Israel. I do not disagree with a measure of the policy of Netanyahu, and that's what I'm speaking towards right now. I'm not necessarily of Israel, but I'm speaking of the policies of Netanyahu, which, if I could say on the record, many natural homeborn Israelis of many different colors, whether they be black or European, agree with me on this sentiment of not agreeing with a measure of his policies. So on that note, what I'm saying is we're told that the Middle East has no right, many of their leaders, to develop nuclear arms, but the United States can, Israel can, Russia can, the Ukraine can. So I mean, just from the perspective of wanting to protect tribe and protect nation, don't we think the nations of the Middle East would be watching all of this and saying to themselves, okay, these people are gathering together to ensure that we don't develop nuclear arms, but all of them are. And not only are all of these nations that are against us developing nuclear weapons, they are developing it themselves, but they're also spending billions of dollars and aiding one another to develop said weapons. So just from the perspective and vantage point of sovereignty, wanting to protect home, nation, family, tribe, I think it makes sense that they would be thinking, what if these guys decide that we're the new enemy on the block? And now they're the only ones that have access to this type of weaponry. We're out the game. So from that perspective, Chief Rabbi, and I just want you to weigh in on it before we go on, and not speaking about the morale of Iran or the Middle East, because I think if we talk about the morale of the Middle East, we have to talk about the morale of America, and we'd also have to talk about the morale of the current leadership in Israel and the past leadership of Israel. So putting morale aside for the moment, which I think we should do, what do you think about the Arab nations saying to themselves, hey, all of the European kingdoms surrounding us are arming themselves with nuclear weapons and even spending billions of dollars to ensure that each of them is armed. But they're telling African nations they can't have this. They're telling Middle Eastern nations they can't have this. In essence, they're telling all the darker peoples of the world, you can't have this type of weaponry because you don't have the morale to behave wisely with it, but we do, even though we're the only ones that have ever used this in war. So I asked you, Chief Rabbi, with that thought in mind, please weigh in for us.
Yeah, no. these are great points, great perspectives in terms of discourse. So I would say the first thing is that on October 7th, Iran declared war on Israel. When we see these different groups, right? Like, for example, like in Lebanon, you have this group, you heard about them, the Hezbollah people, right? So you have them, they don't represent the Lebanese people. They're not a part of the Lebanese people. They have no, and in fact, look, when you do research, you'll see how many Christians have been killed by Hezbollah in Lebanon, right? When you look at in Palestine, right now, I'm talking to you from Jerusalem. I lived the first 4.5 years of me living in Israel was in an area of East Jerusalem, right? Close by Sheikh Jahar. It's a very like contested area. It's a lot of stuff going on there. And so I made friends and I got to meet different Palestinians, right? Because they were my neighbors. And they're the ones who educated me that Hezbollah, the PLO, Fatah, all these different political entities that are here in Palestine, or here in representing the Palestinian people, that dynamic is they don't represent the people, right? These organizations don't represent the people. When you look at Yemen and you look at the Houthis, look at the destruction that those people brought to that area, right? All of these groups are funded, trained, and armed by Iran. When we look at the Christians that are being killed in Nigeria by Boko Haram, just do research. You can Google this. Hezbollah is there training, and Iran is funding, and they're giving arms to the Islamic fundamentalists that are murdering Christians through African Christians throughout the region. When you talk about Somalia, right, and you talk about Al-Shabaab, whatever, and you talk about the arming and the funding and the technology they have to kill the Muslims, right? The largest refugee camp in the world is in Dadaab, Kenya. And that's a byproduct of people from Somalia fleeing Islamic radicalism. I grew up in LA, right, as you know. LA has the largest Persian population in the world outside of Iran. Most of the kids there were Muslim and Jews. What do they have in common? They both were fleeing the Ayatollah, the regime that took over there, right? In Iran, there's women that are being murdered right now because they don't want to wear their headscarf. I don't want to say the R word. They're being beaten in the R word in jail, right? There's people who, you know, are artists, creative people, like rappers, singers in Iran right now that are murdered, that are in jail for speaking out against what they disagree with. If you go back, several years, right? How many people were killed in the streets of Tehran for protesting? So I'm just saying that when we talk about, you know, the dynamic that's going on here, we have to understand that what we're talking about is, do you want China, Russia, and Iran? You said China treats its citizens. You see what exists in Russia. You want them dictating the next 300 years of the world? The next 300 years, you want them, or do you want the United States? Do you want Great Britain? Do you want, you know, all of our allies? You know, you look in the Pacific, you know, the Philippines, Vietnam, South Korea, Japan, right? These are all of our partners. These are all allies of America, right? Or do you want North Korea to be in charge of that region, right? So it's just saying, like, we have to make a decision. And I know as African Americans, we've had a very, very dysfunctional relationship with America, even to this day, right? To this day, we've had a dysfunctional relationship with America, but that dysfunction is a family dysfunction. We're family, right? And families fight when they're at home, but when they go outside of home, they're unified. So when it comes to American foreign policy, we can't take the perspectives that were injected into our communities by the Louis Farrakhan's, by, you know, other, you know, leaders in the Black community that brought perspectives from the Arab world into our community. They brought these perspectives. Gaddafi was trying to give them $1 billion to build satellites in America to broadcast Middle Eastern news to America, right? That's what they were doing, right? So you can't tell me that the Nation of Islam and these other organizations didn't receive money from Arab nations to come and propagate their agenda in our communities. Louis Farrakhan was the one who injected the anti-Semitism into that thing. Martin Luther King never spoke like that, right? People may have had issues with Israel or Jewish people, but like this, you know, the things that were said. And so now we're trying to move forward and we're trying to unify a world, right? Because we're not just Black people, we're Americans, right? And it's a whole bunch of us from different backgrounds. Now America's trying to unify the world, but because we have that same rhetoric and that language that was injected in our community by foreign people that use our leaders, that put those messages in our communities, now we're looking at like, oh, well, you know, America shouldn't win that much. You know, why this? And it's a white and Black thing. America, it's not white and Black. We know that, right? America is diverse. America is hip hop, right? And the next 100 years of America is hip hop. And when I mean hip hop, I mean total integration, total engagement, right? So when we talk about that, sorry about that. When we talk about that idea of hip hop and that unification of music, culture, sound, integration. I go to hip hop concerts, I see white kids, Black kids, Asian kids, Hispanic kids, you know, Middle Eastern kids, Muslim kids, Christian kids, Jewish kids, all rapping lyrics, all from the culture, people, you know, who had difficult lives putting it in art. So that's the future of the world. The future world is hip hop. So my only point on that is just to say, like, you know, America is creating a unified world. Our allies are part of that unification, and the people who are resisting us, you know, are against the fact that me and you could talk on this podcast right now freely with our own opinions.
Right. I have a question from the chat. It's from Morula Israel. She says, does Rav believe that the Zionist Israeli politely and military regime, I think she means polity, and the military regime is on the same page as the religious Jew? I'm going to say that again. Does Rav believe that the Zionist Israeli and military regime is on the same page as the religious Jew, who is my brother? That's her question.
Yeah, you know, the thing is like, You know, there's a
Political, she
lot of
meant, by the way. By the way, she I'm sorry, she put a disclaimer. She meant political. So does Rav or does Chief Rabbi Mordechai believe that the Zionist Israeli political and military regime is on the same page as the religious Jew? My apologies, Chief Rabbi. I just wanted to clarify her statement.
yeah, no, and I think what I want to do is maybe rephrase her question, and I would say it like this: is the Zionist, as she described it, and the religious Jew, are they on the same page as it relates to the Torah? Right? Because the basis of Christianity was the idea that the temple was destroyed and God was no longer with the Jews, and this is new idea, new covenants, all these types of things, all this new stuff, right? And they created their God and the whole concept. Years later, another religion comes along, right? Called Islam. And they say, hey, you know what? The Christians didn't have it right. They had some parts, but, we have the final messenger, we have the final thing and blah, blah, blah. And, we're in line with the Jewish prophets and those people that came before and this type of thing, right? Okay, so you have that, right? But the reality is the covenant never changed. The covenant never left. It never went anywhere else. And now we're back in the land as it was predicted. We were predicted to go into exile. We're predicted to be in diaspora, and we were predicted to come back. And so the problem that the world has with that is that they cannot accept the fact that the Jews are back and we're diverse. Don't try to make it a white thing. I know that's how they try to say, oh, the Jews are white and Zionists and white people against dark people. And this whole thing's like, no, that Israeli military is melanated. It is melanated. Of all different complexions. You go to any high school in the black community, you're going to see light-skinned black people. You're going to see, dark-skinned, mid, all that. You're going to see the same thing in the Israeli military. And so this idea that there's these Zionists and these religious people is that. Now in terms of engagement, right? The religious community here does not believe in, they believe in separation of sexes, right? Men and women should be separate even in the military, right? Which other people don't agree with, right? They believe that that a person should be studying Torah so many hours in a day, as where people, in the military believe that, you should be engaged in these things certain days. Now, there are religious units, right, where they do have religion, where they're learning Torah, and then they're also going out doing activities, type of a thing. So that does exist, but there's this idea that there's like these Zionists and this and the whole thing. The Zionist idea is no different than black people saying that, we're descendants of lost tribes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same idea of returning, the same idea of going into Zion, the same idea of rebuilding Yerushalayim, witnessing Mashiach. Everyone believes in Mashiach, right? So that idea of returning to Mashiach, this is Zionist. This is Zionism. Right? They want to make it like Zionism is some like angry colonistic thing that, is an extension of the United States. And it's just like, you know what? Let's talk about the Jewish mindset when they went into Jericho. Let's talk about when they went into the land of Eretz Israel. Let's talk about how they dealt with that. What would the TV be saying then? If there was news going on about, if they had CNN during the times when Yehoshua ben Nun was marching into the land of Israel, what would they be saying about us then? They were saying, oh, you're killers and you're murderers and you're this and this whole thing and blah, 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 and this whole concept. They'll be saying worse things, right? The first Rashi, and I'll close here and you could continue, you could come back. But the first Rashi in the Torah, right, on Bereshit, right? They asked the questions, the sages asked the questions, why does the Torah have to start with Bereshit? Why couldn't it start with the book of Exodus? Why didn't you start with the book of Exodus? It's there are these people, they were slaves and they were freed and they got laws on Mount Sinai and they went on. Why, what is this Bereshit about? Why is it so important for us to know about Bereshit bara Elohim et Hashemayim va'aretz? Right? Why do we got to know this? Why do we have to know this idea? The sages said because there's going to be a time when the Jewish people, they build Eretz Israel and they build a kingdom, and then they're going to make sins. And God's going to kick them out of the land. And they're going to go into diaspora for thousands of years. And then they're going to come back into the land, and the whole world is going to say, you guys are thieves, you guys are murderers, you guys shouldn't be here. Who do you think you are? and said God wrote the Torah, so they should know how and why we're back there at that time. And so that time is now, right? That time is now. And so the thing is, it's like, I understand all the political ideas, but if you're saying that you're an Israelite, if you're saying you're a Jew, your life is on the line. I don't care what your skin complexion is, right? You're with Israel, or you with the Muslims. That's it. You say you're Israelite, you claim this, the whole thing, you in march on. Okay, now it's time to put up. Now it's time to put up. So either you're with us, and you're with the state of Israel, and it's not perfect. Many Israelis are not with all the policies here. They're not connected, the whole thing, and people are protesting, and Netanyahu, all this type of stuff. I get it. But the reality is, it's the Jewish people moving forward. And there's African Americans serving in the IDF right now. From Chicago, from New York, from LA, from Pennsylvania, from Alabama, from Oklahoma. They're serving right now in the IDF too. In Gaza, in Syria, right now, Lebanon. So this is like a real unified situation. And so, it's just where you stand at. You say, you're Israelites, you with the Jews or not? So you, Rav Zion.
All right. I mean, that was something that we need to hear. We need to be aware of looking at it in more than one way. I want to absolutely say that. By the way, guys, if there's any view that you guys are putting forth, and you have the time and then the space, your background is fine. By all means, the live stream is open for you guys to come on and rightly represent your view. Having said that, we're going to move straight on to this presentation. What I think we should do, Chief Rabbi, because I also enjoy current events and history, modern contemporary history. We should come back, or at least try to come back one more time a week, to meet up at least twice a week. And certain weeks, if we can't, we can't. But if we made a concerted effort to come together twice a week, where we cover conversations on Torah, and where we cover current events, I think that would be great, because people really need to hear a Torah-centered view on current events, which I think we are well qualified to give. So depends on what you think about that moving forward. But I'd love to do at least one more live stream with you a week to talk about current events, but with a Torah-centered way of looking at things.
Yeah, 100%, and I think that's a very important dialogue. And one more point on this too: it's like, even if a person doesn't identify as Israelite or Jew or whatever, and I think Rav Zion probably would be the best person to bring sources on this. But there's a tremendous blessing in blessing the Jewish people, right, and blessing Israel, and there's a tremendous connection that you gain to God, by doing that. And one of the examples they give, it's like a person has a son. And the son's like, say he's playing like Pop Warner football or, something like this. And they see a coach that really is invested and is really giving. It's a certain love you got for that coach. You're like, he's a good dude. I like that dude. Right. Some guys even get married on that, sometimes single mom seeing the guy, So the point is just saying there's a tremendous love in that way. So I would just say, just blessing the Jewish people. And it's not to say that all Jews are good or perfect or whatever. You read the Tanakh, you have times where Jewish people are totally righteous, and we have times where we were not righteous, and we're struggling with that situation. So I would just say, like, all the Jewish people, just blessing us and blessing that we should be protected. And if you consider yourself a Jew or Israelite, you include yourself in that blessing as well.
Baruch Hashem. It's a tough place to be, because on the one hand, we could have patriotism in our heart for our land and for our people, but on the other hand, we could be diametrically opposed to those who are in power whilst in the land. But one thing I have to make clear, right, and this might sound controversial for our community, but I want to make something clear. Hashem always decides who rules, no matter where we are on the earth, but especially in Israel. And what we must consider as Israelites is, while we clearly disagree, and I'm speaking for myself, and I think I can speak for a majority of Israelites here, while many of us clearly disagree with a lot of the policies of the Israeli regime over the past, I want to say, well over 70 years. While many of us disagree with a great deal of their policies as it pertains to our people, I think that we should also be in consideration of the Creator's will is carried out through whomever He chooses. And although everyone is allowed a measurable autonomy when it comes to the demonstration of one's will, ultimately it's the will of the Creator that's done. And there's nobody ruling anywhere in the world that the Creator didn't place there. That's what we should definitely understand, and especially the land of Israel. Now, again, that doesn't mean, nor is it an attempt to be a statement to co-sign the leadership there, because I personally do not like the leadership there. I think that a person can be a patriot and not necessarily be a fan favorite of those in leadership currently, right? There are people in America that are European whose ancestors are responsible for the enslavement of our ancestors, that are patriotic towards this country and are not in favor of the leadership. There are people prior to the Trump regime that were in deep patriotism to America and absolutely hated the leadership of Barack Obama, or now President Trump. So again, we can separate patriotism from liking a current leader. So that's where my heart is. I am certainly a patriot at heart for the land of Israel and for the people of Israel, which allows me the fortitude to say, but I dislike the current leadership, especially when the current leadership does things that is not aligned with what I can see and recognize as being Torah-centered, as well as being politically right to do, right? And again, it's not an attempt to just mete out and measure out Netanyahu and make him and his regime entirely wrong and entirely evil. But I'm always seeking balance in a dialogue. And the media has done its fill of making Iran the enemy. So when I speak in this way about not wanting Iran to do anything that would harm our people, I have to also speak about the provoked war of Netanyahu's regime. Netanyahu has provoked war in this region by bombing them first. Again, the current operation is entitled Operation Rising Lion. It's a preemptive attack led by the state of Israel against Iran because of them arming themselves nuclearly and beginning to develop nuclear weapons that they may distribute to other rogue nations. Now, again,
but Rav Zion, Rav Zion, let me ask you this: why do you say that that Israel is attacking Iran because of the nuclear program? They're attacking Iran because Iran's sub-armies that are called Hamas and called Hezbollah attacked Israel on October 7th. That's why Israel is responding. It's not just because the nuclear thing has been an issue, since Obama was in office, right? So it's not a new concept. The issue is why it's happening right now is a byproduct of October 7th, where over 1,200 civilians were we have Coachella in America, right? We have Coachella in America. We got Hot 97. You're in New York, Hot 97 Summerfest, right? So imagine a group of people come into those places from another country, a country or ideology, come in and just kills 44,000 festival goers, right? You got a concert, 100,000 people, 150,000 people, 44,000 of those kids are murdered in broad daylight, right? And so what is the United States going to do? Right, so we had to deal with the sub-armies first, right, which is Hamas, which is Hezbollah, which is the Houthis, these different types. We had to deal with them in Syria, right? We had to deal with them first, and then now we're dealing with the head of the snake. But this is not about nuclear. America's issue with Iran is nuclear. Okay, that's America's position. America's position is that they need to denuclearize immediately, meaning there's no uranium enrichment. That's America's, that's a Trump position. Israel's issue is that they've been under attack by Iranian proxy armies in these particular areas that have been firing probably close to 2,000 rockets at Israel since October 7th. Ballistic missiles, which, one ballistic missile has the ability to wipe out, an entire football stadium. right? And they're sending thousands of those towards civilians and in people in this region, Jewish, Christian, black, white, Muslim, everything, right? So Israel's not responding because of uranium enrichment. That's an American issue. Israel responding because of the attacks on Israel October 7th and since from Iranian proxies. This one's up.
Okay, let me read to you something really quick, right? Because again, I'm seeking balance in the dialogue, right? I'm aware that Israel, and I'm going to use very choice words, right? I'm aware that the current narrative in Israel is that there's an issue with Iran because it is her subset groups under her that on October 7th, and as atrocious as that was, bombed, in Israel. And I absolutely get that perspective. However, I want to say, and I'm also going to cite sources, that Iran actually condemned that bombing on October 7th. The leadership in Iran actually condemned that bombing. So, I mean, a person can argue, yeah, they may have condemned it, but, that's on the outside. Really, on the inside, they're not really condemning it because they're still fueling them with weapons. But I still want to state for the record that the leadership in Iran actually condemned the bombing of October 7th. So we have to acknowledge that. And they did this publicly.
When did they do that?
They did that last year. I could give you the exact date, but let me read something to you really quick because I think this is pertinent.
Okay.
In responding to war, especially an attack, I think it's hard to say how much of a response is necessary, but I think it's also insane to not acknowledge that too much of a response is also unnecessary. And here's what I mean by that. In the 2023 to 2024 Israel-Hezbollah conflict along Lebanon's border, estimates indicate that Hezbollah's rocket and missile strikes resulted in around 45 civilian deaths in northern Israel and scores of IDF soldiers, which amount to almost 280. However, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, in its operation during the Gaza war, the IDF has been linked to the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians, primarily in Gaza, with official accounts at over 45,000 to 55,000 deaths, of which a significant majority were civilians. Chief Rabbi, I would definitely need your face now. I'm not sure what you're doing, but I'm going to pause because you need to be in the building on this one. I need to see your face. The people.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Just some loud thing that came on.
Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time. Let me know when you're ready. Let me know when you're ready. In the meantime, family, them up the video is share a live stream. We're having a really great dialogue on some current events. We're absolutely going to get to the Torah portion, but this is needed right now because there's a lot going on in the land. So this is needed right now. All right, this is needed. We're going to certainly get to talking about Torah portion Shalach and those things anchored and centered on it. But sometimes in conversation, we just have to, ask ourselves and each other the hard questions, even and if it means that we disagree. At least no one would be able to say that we're up here bantering and just catering towards the views of one another without actually having a balanced dialogue based on how we mutually feel. So these conversations are important. If and when we disagree, it's never personal. This is just our viewpoint. Yeah, I can hear you, Chief Rabbi. I'm just making a statement. If and when we disagree, it's never personal. Okay. It's just a viewpoint. Sorry, and our community needs to understand through our lead that this is how you should conduct areas of discrepancy or areas of differences when it comes to how we're surmising Torah and how we're surmising current history. So what I was reading to you, Chief Rabbi, and I want to point out again, from 2023 to 2024, in the Israel-Hezbollah conflict and along Lebanon's border, the estimates indicate that Hezbollah's rocket and missile strikes resulted in 45 civilian deaths in northern Israel and scores of IDF soldiers, which amount to almost 280 dead among the IDF. However, The IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, in its operation during the Gaza war, the IDF has been linked to the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians, primarily in Gaza, with official accounts or reports at over 45,000 to 55,000 deaths, where a significant majority of the deaths were actually civilian. So then the question begs, yes, on October 7th, there was a strike led by Hezbollah. Absolutely, no one contests that whatsoever, and thousands lost their lives. Nobody, contests that whatsoever. But the problem now is how much of a response is necessary to say, okay, and let's now seek to politicize the environment and now seem to harmonize the environment by both making concerted efforts to pull back from war and then dealing with the body politic of what has just happened in in an international court. Instead, what's happening is on both sides, the war has continued, with many arguing that, and when I say many arguing, I mean even on the Israeli end, that the IDF's show of force is just too extreme. If one nation has made a strike, initiated a strike on another, and that's what happened on October 7th. And due to that strike, 1,000+ people have died. That's a tragedy, especially the way in which they died. But if the response is we now kill 45,000 to 55,000 of your people when we lost less than 2,000, and much of those 45,000 to 55,000 are civilians, the question begs to the greater world as to the morality led in this war. I mean, with all due respect, Chief Rabbi, our commentary shouldn't be like everyone's else, because our commentary should be nuanced with the morale and ethics of Torah, where we're always balancing right from wrong and how much is too much. So the question begs, what is enough on the Israeli end? That's what the question begs. I'm asking that question. What is enough?
Yeah. Well, the thing is like, the thing is like in Western thought, right? It's very difficult for us to, like, because we come from America, we come from a society that has done atrocious things, but there's been so much like repentance and sorrow and sensitivity and empathy that it's hard for us to imagine that in Gaza that there's a business plan that's being executed where the death of the civilians is a mechanism to raise money, right? The destruction of property is a way to raise money. If anybody does research on the Hamas leaders, which most of which all like they're no longer living, through the conflict, but these people were billionaires. These people grew up in Gaza, most of these people, right? These people became billionaires through the conflict. It's a business model. Do research on Yasser Arafat, and he's like the quintessential leader of this Palestinian, liberation type of thing. He's a billionaire. They took tons of money. It's a scam. It's a scam. The Palestinian concept, you know who the Palestinians were? They were Jews. That was the name that the Romans gave to you, right? Rav Zion knows this. The Romans gave that name to the Jews that lived in Judea. They called them Palestine. They took that name. It's a Greek name. They named it that. They were named the Jews that. If you look in like the 1800s, early 1900s, you look at any pictures of Israelis, or Palestinians at that time, they had Jewish stars everywhere. This is the name that they gave. It's the same way that they gave my ancestors names when they got off the plantation. When they got off the ships, right? The plantation ships or the slave ships, when they got off the slave ships, they gave us new names. They attempt to do the same thing with the Jews, right? So that new name, Palestine is the name for Jews. It wasn't until 1967, after the Six-Day War, that the Russians conspired with the Arabs to invent a people called Palestinian people. They created that. The whole thing was a created concept. People went to sleep Jordanian and they woke up Palestinian.
What right? About the
Egyptian,
argument, Chief Rabbi, if I could inject, what about the argument and this is an argument that's being made
Please.
Currently, not even in past, but currently. What about the argument that the state of Israel is also a creation? There are people who certainly regard that the state of Israel was created in 1948. In fact, there are a measure of Orthodox Jews that protest annually in Israel against the Zionist establishment of Israel in 1948 because they say it's not of Hashem and they believe it was created by man, the United States and the West. So I get on the one hand that you're arguing that the original Palestinians are actually Jews, which I think is a very significant topic within itself, because just imagine the implications of that alone. The Palestinians, many of them have what is called in current academia Jewish DNA. I'm using the academic terms. Many of them have Jewish DNA. In fact, when we go by numbers, many of them have stronger blood ties or DNA roots to the Levant, that genetic region. So just imagine that in all of these wars that's happening, these Palestinian people are being pushed further and further away from what is in reality their land. And yes, many of them have adopted and even co-opted Islam, and I'm using those terms very choice but for a reason too. Many of them have adopted and co-opted Islam, but many of them are bloodline Jews as well. So what do we do in a situation like that where the people you're actually fighting have a bloodline relationship as well? That further confuses things. That further calls for a need to be a little bit more sensitive towards how we're dealing with issues.
So on that point, Rajline, it's a very, very important point, right? Because a lot of the people that are the original Palestinians are Afro-Palestinians, and they're people that look just like me and you, and they're treated like second-class citizens in the West Bank and in Gaza. They have a specific part of Gaza that's centered for the Black Palestinians. The Black Palestinians are the original Palestinians. The people that you see, most of the people you see fighting, they're originally from Jordan and from Egypt. They came over and assumed the Palestinian dynamic, but the original Palestinians are the Afro-Palestinians that are here. They have their own place, but they are subjugated by the Arabs who now call themselves Palestinian. They took their identity. You see what I'm saying? These people are from Jordan and Egypt. They're not that. So the original people who you could make that claim and say, hey, they're part of that land and they lived there for all these years are the Afro-Palestinians, right? And it's important that they're being subjugated by the Arab Palestinians who took their identity, right? And so when we're talking about understanding the conflict and how to move forward, we have to understand that there's a replacement theology happening right now, right? And they're coming in and they're assuming the Jewish identity and they're marginalizing the Afro-Palestinians, right? And they're making the Afro-Palestinians marginalized, like they don't exist. And that's what they've done, period. We know transatlantic slave trade was very much done by the Arabs, right? And again, I have love, like my mom's brother.
You said, I have to inject on that point. You said we know that the transatlantic slave trade was very much done by the Arabs. What do you mean by that?
Like the Arabs in Africa, the Arabs that were in Africa sold many of the African Americans to Europeans.
You're talking about the sub-Saharan slave trade, right?
In the West,
because the sub-Saharan slave trade is different from the transatlantic slave trade in history and chronology and in context.
Well, I'm saying like even today, Arabs are selling black slaves in Sudan, right? So I'm saying that there's been a long history with the Arab world and selling Africans as slaves.
Yeah, I want to perfectly make sure I'm capturing your words as well as responding correctly, which is why the two have to be synchronized properly. I want to make sure I'm capturing what you're saying. You just said that we really know that it was the Arabs in the transatlantic slave trade, which I'm going to tell you that's news to me. When you say we really know that it was really the Arabs that I'm guessing, I'm inferring that you're saying orchestrated, carried out the transatlantic slave trade. I'm going to need you to re-educate me because I'm aware of what we call the trans-Saharan slave trade, which was first done by Arabs. I'm absolutely aware of that. I'm actually working on a book that ties in the two because there is a place where they do tie. But to refer to the transatlantic slave trade as being Arab-led, that's news to me. And I would love to hear from you when you return, how that works. In the meantime, family, thumb up the video and share the live stream. We're going to take a brief break with the return of Chief Rabbi. As soon as he returns, we'll have him address that last point. Thank you all for supporting the platform. Let me just give a shout out. Thank you to Celia Ben Yah. And he says, Shalom, peace to the viewers, listeners, chat, mods, and hosts. And I'm going to throw back Shalom to you. Thank you very much for your support and your donation. I'm just going to remind the family to make sure that you show your love and your support as well. All right. In the meantime, if anyone wants to join the live stream, I believe that I put the link in the live stream. I'm going to ask the moderators to find the link to join the live stream so that people can join and return. Moderators, can you please go through the chat, find the link for people to join the live stream so that they can enter. We're still waiting Chief Rabbi Mordechai to return. While he returns, we're going to have a quick commercial break, and then we will be right back.
Did you know that a recent rabbinical court ruling could rewrite the history of millions of African Americans? The connection goes deeper than you might think. The Obadiah Alliance, a respected Sephardic rabbinical court, has officially recognized the Igbo Jews of Nigeria as descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. This groundbreaking declaration bridges a historical gap that scholars have debated for generations. The ruling draws from extensive historical evidence, DNA research, and preserved cultural practices that link the Igbo people to ancient Israel. The implications reach far beyond Nigeria's borders. During the transatlantic slave trade, a significant number of enslaved people were taken from Igbo territories. Many African Americans and Afro-Caribbeans today can trace their ancestry directly to these Igbo regions. This connection aligns with the biblical text of Deuteronomy 28:68, which some scholars interpret as a prophetic reference to the slave trade. The evidence suggests a profound historical narrative. Many African Americans and Afro-Caribbeans may be descendants of the lost tribes of Israel through their Igbo ancestry. This revelation challenges conventional historical perspectives and opens new avenues for understanding identity, heritage, and cultural connections across continents. Could this ruling reshape our understanding of not just African American history, but biblical history as well? Share your thoughts on this remarkable discovery.
All right. I don't see Chief Rabbi Mordechai on the return, so I guess we're going to close out. No one is joining the live, so we're definitely going to close out. But I also want to make a closing statement before we actually go. We have a biblical Hebrew class tonight at 8 p.m. So for those of you who are in Learn Torah Hebrew Academy, mark your calendars. You're going to see some announcements and notifications in a couple of moments. We have a biblical Hebrew class tonight at 8 p.m. Those of you who are new to our platform, we are Learn Torah Hebrew Academy, and we absolutely have classes all week. We have a biblical Hebrew class happening tonight at 8 p.m. We have a Torah class tomorrow at Tuesday. We have a rabbinical course that we do every Wednesday, and we have a Kabbalah class that we do on Thursdays. And on Sunday, we do a Levitical ministry course. In closing, just checking to see if anyone has joined. The link is there. In closing, I want to say something, right? When we present views, there we go. I was going to close out, Chief Rabbi. I didn't know what happened to your connection.
Yeah, no, I mean, technology.
Can you
hear me okay?
We can hear you perfect. You actually sound like you're indoors now. You look like you're indoors now.
Yeah, I'm inside. So the thing is like this.
Actually,
on the closing out point, I just want to clarify this. Everybody mourns, and everyone is saddened by every single, death to children in Gaza, right? But the thing that people have to like really kind of like take into account when you look at the conflict, right? Because even when we learn the Torah, we learn it on a frame of macro and we learn it in macro and micro, right? Or qual and prat, right? The singular and the general, right? Or the particular and the general, right? And so on a specific standpoint, you see the conflict in Gaza, and you're like, wow, this is the relationship between Israelis and the Palestinians, and it's not, right? Because there's 2 million Palestinians that live in proper Israel every single day. I live in Jerusalem. I think it's close to 100,000 Palestinians that work inside of Jerusalem. If you go to any hospital here in Israel, mostly Palestinian doctors, most of the police force, a lot of the police force are Palestinians here. The infrastructure here, the municipality, everything in Israel is the Palestinians are very much a part of it. Now, what people don't understand is like there's 2 million Palestinians that do not refer to themselves as Palestinians. They refer to themselves as Israeli Arabs, and they live in Israel. They pay taxes. They live in the whole situation. Now, what's going on in Gaza in the West Bank is a segment of the population that has been radicalized. Much of Gaza are people who are, descendants of refugees, or meaning like, it's like an orphan type society. You know what I mean? Like it's a very unique place that a bunch of social conditions created it. But nevertheless, the point is saying they are completely different and separate than the rest of the Arab Israelis or the Palestinians, right? And so the dynamic of the conflict is not a conflict against Palestinians; it's against the radicalized people that are in the West Bank, that are Hamas, and in Gaza, which are Hamas, right? And those are the people who waged the war. The other Palestinians, there's Palestinians in the IDF. There's Palestinians that are fighting. There's Palestinians that are judges and lawyers, and you know what I mean. So it's not like some like weird, apartheid thing. This is the people. The propaganda that we see in the West are from the countries and the institutions that do not want the West to grow in this region. They don't want the West to grow in this region. That's the issue. The issue is saying that they see Western growth as the demise of their society, and that's what they're fighting against. Israel's just on the front line of it. This is a war against America. This is a war against what Martin Luther King and our ancestors marched for, right? This is a war against the civil rights movement. That's a war against that idea of equality and inclusion in new thinking, right? And removing of segregation, these things. This is what these people are resisting, right? And that's what the West is bringing, our content, everything. So I would say that. What were you saying?
How much more time you have, Chief Rabbi? We're an hour in. You have a little bit more time with us?
Yeah, we could do a little bit. Yeah, we could do a little bit more
Good.
time.
Because we're definitely going to get into the Torah portion. I just wanted to add something, and I wanted you here as I'm saying this. Sometimes everyone, when we're having dialogues, especially dialogues that are politically charged, we're going to disagree, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a disagreement. I think that it's important to note that due to the climate, the political climate right now in the land of Israel and the world, moreover, it's important to address these types of topics, and it's important to engage in this type of question and answer forum. I don't think it's necessarily a debate, right? Because a debate would mean that we are diametrically opposed. And I don't think that myself and Chief Rabbi are diametrically opposed. A debate is only necessary when two people share completely different views on something. At least for me, I don't enter into a debate with someone that we're pretty much on the same page with some minor differences. It's not enough to debate if we're pretty much on the same page. And that's where I see Chief Rabbi Mordechai. So we're certainly not debating, but obviously there's some things that we disagree with. And when those things happen, I want our community to know and understand that this platform and this moment is the perfect time, because we get to see two mature people deal with differences in a very mature way. And that's important. This is not the platform where people say, oh, that's how you see it, Chief Rabbi? Now you're my enemy, and now we're not friends. Now I don't love Chief Rabbi because of what he said. Now he's not my brother. Now I gotta not do my weekly Torah portion with him. That, to me, that's insane. So why this is so important to me is because we show our community that, yes, while we agree mostly, there are going to be things that we disagree with, but more importantly, we're not even going to hide it from you guys. We're going to keep it right here, but we're also going to keep it amicable. We're also going to keep it Torah-centered, and we're also going to allow each other to speak uninterrupted so as to show respect, but also speak our mind, our heart, but then come back to show where we are in unison. And that's how these dialogues should happen. And that's why I really love people like Chief Rabbi Mordechai, because if you guys check our record, I would want to say 98% of the videos you guys watch us in, we're in agreement. He's saying one thing, I'm saying another. He came off. He's saying one thing, I'm saying another. We're trading. But then, that 2% time, we disagree. But I really love those times because he shows you guys that I'm not in his pocket. He's not in my pocket. We come together to do these podcasts because we think it's meaningful toward the growth of our people. And if we strike upon a topic that we disagree with, we're going to address it. But we're going to address it in a way that sets the standard for how we disagree. And that's very important. I'm going to just read off some of the comments in the comment section before we get back. Chief Rabbi, he's having some issues. Morula Israel says, indeed, so thankful Rav Mordechai is safe and here with us today. I catch his shiur live every morning and afternoon. He is dedicated. He absolutely is. And we are thankful that he is safe. Ron Shivat says, okay. Ron Shivat says, a snowball at the top of the mountain is small. By the time it reaches the bottom, the town's in great trouble. Absolutely. Yep. Nasi Ariel says, understandable, error is easy to be overlooked. I believe that's in reference to Chief Rabbi referring to the transatlantic slave trade as being Arab-led. Nasi Ariel says, homie got bombs flying over him. There's no need to debate. Okay. The Igbo were mostly sold by the Husa. So both the Arab, Muslim, Jewish, European have all done a slave trade agreements. Can you ask the rabbi if he agree? Judah Time says, so both the Arabs, Muslim, Jewish, European, USA, Christian have all done a slave trade on the Negro race. Can you ask the rabbi if he agree? If he agrees, he's not here right now. I definitely would ask him. By the way, just reminding you guys, the link is in the chat. Moderators, there's a couple of you in here. There's only one person sharing the link. Moderators, if you can you please not only share the links to our live stream, but share the links to our classes. Guys, with all due respect, I just want to say something. I mean this with all due respect, so I'm hoping no one is extra sensitive tonight. One of the reasons why you guys have a wrench is because you have a job. And your job is to help me do things that I normally would not be able to do because I'm immersed in a dialogue with whomever I'm interviewing. And it would be very helpful, moderators, if you guys take the links that you see posted and you post them in the chat. You repost them, the links to our classes, our merch, our books, etc., etc. You guys have wrenches so that you can help out. I know on YouTube, a wrench becomes the new way of saying, look, I'm down. But over here, the wrench says, at least to me in this platform, that you guys are helping out and we're all doing this together. So moderators, I really appreciate if you guys would do just that to help out by sharing our links in the chat room. Again, I'm not sure what's happening with Chief Rabbi Mordechai's connection, but he's still not here. So in the meantime, what I will do is I will play one more video. If Chief Rabbi Mordechai does not return, then we're going to close the video and we're going to have our biblical Hebrew class tonight at 8 p.m. And if you guys want to see a full and complete breakdown of this week's Torah portion, come to patreon.com/learn Torah. Join Learn Torah Hebrew Academy so that you can absolutely learn this Torah. Hopefully when we return, Chief Rabbi will be back. If not, we will close out. Shalom, everyone.
Want to take your understanding and perception of the Hebrew Bible to new and exciting heights and depths? Then join us today At Learn Torah Hebrew Academy, we offer a full range of masterly taught and thought-provoking classes and courses in Biblical Hebrew for beginners and advanced students, Torah classes, with specific emphasis on the weekly Torah portion. We also offer Kabbalah classes for beginners and advanced students, affording everyone a deeper and more esoteric understanding of the Bible and Torah. Lastly, we also offer courses in rabbinical and Levitical ministry training, especially designed for those looking to embark upon leadership opportunities in the community. We provide certificates and diplomas for several of our classes. Our online academy meets a couple days a week, and all of our classes are video recorded and for your playback needs. Each class recording comes with a fully digitized AI transcript, documenting everything learned and discussed in each session. Ancient texts hint at a fascinating truth about biblical figures that challenges modern assumptions. Could Moses and Joseph have been black men? The evidence might surprise you. Historical records show ancient Egyptians were known for their dark complexion, with their land even called Kemet, meaning the Black Land. This becomes significant when we examine biblical accounts where both Joseph and Moses were mistaken for Egyptians among foreign peoples, suggesting a similar appearance. Biblical scholars have long debated this connection, noting these weren't casual misidentifications, but rather complete assumptions of Egyptian identity by observers. A compelling piece of evidence appears in Exodus, where God gives Moses a miraculous sign. When Moses places his hand in his cloak and withdraws it, the text describes it becoming leprous, white as snow. This divine sign's impact relies on the stark contrast between Moses' natural skin tone and the supernatural transformation. The miracle's power lies in the dramatic visible change from dark to light. These historical details align with archaeological findings about the diverse appearances of ancient Middle Eastern peoples. While modern depictions often show biblical figures differently, original texts suggest a more complex historical reality. Ancient Israelites likely shared physical characteristics with their Egyptian neighbors, challenging many contemporary artistic interpretations. What other historical truths might we discover by examining ancient texts more carefully?
Shalom and welcome to Zion Flex TV. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and share the live stream. Become a member of Zion Lex TV and unlock several hidden features and hidden videos. Also, you can donate to Zion Lex TV at Cash App $ZionLex or via PayPal at zionlex@gmail.com. We also have an online academy entitled Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. Visit us on patreon.com/learntorah. Our Gold Tier membership gives you unlimited access to our special event lectures and our special live movie nights. Our Platinum Tier gives you unlimited access to our Torah class, Kabbalah class, Patriarchs and Matriarchs of the Covenant classes, as well as understanding the New Testament via the Oral Tradition class. Our Diamond Tier gives you unlimited access to all of the previous tiers, as well as our most sought-after class, our Biblical Hebrew course. And finally, our highest tier, our Sapphire Tier, gives you unlimited access to all previous tiers, as well as our highly esteemed rabbinical course. Be sure to sign up today and check your tier membership so as to ensure you're getting access to the classes you desire. Thank you for visiting us here at Zion Lex TV, and now back to our current live stream.
All right, everyone, we're going to close out. Chief Rabbi must be having some issues behind the scenes, so we're going to close out. I'm not going to do these sessions alone anymore. I really do enjoy the interview style. If you guys want to see what it is that I teach, I'm at Learn Torah Hebrew Academy at patreon.com/Learn Torah. Apart from that, I do interviews on Zion Lex TV where I interview various personalities and engage people on current events, mostly on Torah-based issues, but even at times current events. And you guys also have the opportunity to highlight anything that you're doing in the community. So if you're an Israelite business, if you have any music, if you have any services, by all means, you can reach out at 613-learntorah@gmail.com, and you can let me know what it is that you'd like to promote here at Zion Lex TV. I want to say much love to everyone out there. Those of you who are tuning in from afar, those of you who are tuning in locally. I'm going to try my best to go live as much as I possibly can from Zion Lex TV. But as always, you guys know I'm going to sound like a broken record. Some of you say, oh, good to see you guys back. I don't know what that means, because for us, we're live at least 4 to 5 times a week on Patreon at Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. So I always say to people, if you're a part of the Academy, you're never missing a lesson on Torah. We're going live at least 4 to 5 times a week. But if you're just here for YouTube stuff, then yeah, there might be some long goodbyes. There might be some times where, we're taking a long hiatus, or we're not here for sometimes 3-4 months, sometimes 4 or 5 months, sometimes 6-7 months, even at times a full year. YouTube is certainly not my priority. I make my priority our online academy. That is where I pour most of my energy in, because I know that's where our people are really going to benefit in an academic setting. YouTube doesn't always allow that. There are things that I can't even say on YouTube because of YouTube's policies. And some of you who are YouTube friendly, you should well know that by now. I literally find myself having to hold back on YouTube in terms of saying certain things and even talking a certain way. Those of you who are in our academy, you know exactly what I mean. Sometimes things need to be said in a certain spirit, and YouTube doesn't allow you to do all of that. But we are very free to do that in our online academy. Shout out to everybody from Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. Shout out to those of you who are tuning in just to Zion Lex TV. But again, brief reminder, if you feel like you've been missing out, it's because you're not part of Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. The bar is set pretty high there. We really delve into some amazing topics. And if you are not a part of the academy, I know I'm not the only one when I say to you, you are really missing out on an amazing experience. So try your best to get into that academy. We have classes at many different many different membership levels where you can learn and engage. You don't have to engage at the highest level if it's not for you. If you're not looking to become a leader in the community, there's no reason for you to attempt to join our highest level of membership. But if you're simply looking to learn Torah and get a little deeper into our mysteries, we've certainly made it such that you should be able to do it. When you look at some of the things that we freely pay for, is insane today. I remember someone reaching out to me on email saying, Zion, I really do appreciate what you do, but I don't have enough to join your classes right now. And I said, okay, I appreciate that. And that was it. And then the person messaged me and they said, you don't want to ask me why? And I was like, well, I usually reason to myself that if a person doesn't divulge, I'm not going to really ask. But if you're asking me to ask, yeah, why? And he goes, well, I'm paying already for Netflix, and I'm already paying for streaming for me and my children. I'm going out, I'm eating, there's a lot of different expenses, Brother Zion, so it's not that easy. To which, with all due respect, I responded to the person and I said, priorities. If it's more important for you to be subscribed to Netflix and Hulu and Prime Video and HBO Max, I'm not going to disagree with what's priority to you. But for many people, Torah is our priority. And if you want a person that is well astute in what the Torah has to say, to share their time, their resources, and their efforts with you, you're going to have to make the same sacrifice they make. Before each class, I'm cracking books. As you guys know, I'm a book connoisseur. I collect several books, and this is not anything new. People that know me 3 decades could tell you this has always been who I am. Every time I buy a book, that's a sacrifice. Every time I spend hours before I go to bed at night, that's a sacrifice. Many nights I don't come to bed till after 1:30 a.m. I'm up studying. That's a sacrifice. The money that it costs to purchase those books, that's a sacrifice, right? So everything is about priority. If Torah is your priority, then you'll make the necessary sacrifices to see to it as such. If not, then I guess I'll catch you on YouTube whenever we go live, wherever that may be. But to be clear, guys, going forward, if you're coming to Zionlex TV for enlightenment and education, there are several videos that we have. Several videos. I've done what you would call the free stuff for decades. And that's not word of mouth. That's not just me talking. Go and look at my YouTube channel. Go and see when I started. Go and see the content. I have hours of videos up there. So that means I'm servicing all parts of the community, right? People say, oh, I wish your classes were free. I have hours of free videos on YouTube. But if you want the engagement of being in class and really, really learning, yes, you're going to have to sacrifice for that. Yeah, absolutely going to have to sacrifice for that, because I'm going to tell you guys something that I learned a long time ago. And I know some of you are thinking, well, that's not going to be me, but I'm telling you what I know from experience. Years ago, I would teach unlimited for absolutely free. Never charged anyone a red cent. People would take my classes absolutely free, didn't charge anything. And you know what I noticed? 2 or 3 people would show up. The class would start 8. I'd announce that it ends at 9:30, 10. People would start showing up at 9, 9:15, and then they'd be leaving like 9:20, 9:30. So I was like, oh, okay. Interesting. This happened for a couple of years. And then someone told me, you know, Zion, if you don't see value in something, why would someone else see value in something? If you take Michael Jordan's sneaker right now and you tell everybody it's free, yeah, the first day, a lot of people are going to be showing up. The first week, the first month. You know what's going to happen after a while? It loses its value because it's so accessible. Anything that's so accessible, it loses its value. Unfortunate, but that's a reality. Even your time is valuable. You all know that. If you all were called by a job right now and they said, I need you to work and do this, but I also don't want to pay you. You look at them and say they're crazy because you know your time is valuable. So I say in the form of a rhetorical question, is not my time valuable? Shalom, everyone. Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. See you tonight at 8 p.m. YouTube land. See you guys next time we go live, whenever that is. Shalom to everyone. Have a great day and peace.
In ancient Israel, when prophets were men and judges were warriors, one woman dared to challenge everything they thought they knew about power. Under a solitary palm tree, Deborah's wisdom drew crowds from every tribe, while tribal elders whispered their doubts in darkened tents. The battlefields of Canaan had fallen silent, but a storm was brewing. As the mighty Canaanite army threatened their lands, the skeptics who once mocked her prophecies now stood frozen in fear. Deborah's words cut through their uncertainty like lightning. Victory would come, but only if they followed her divine guidance. The army commander Barak faced an impossible choice. Trust this woman judge or watch his people perish. With chariots of iron approaching and the fate of Israel hanging by a thread, Deborah's prophecy unfolded exactly as she had foreseen. The rivers of Kishon swept away the enemy, and those who doubted her leadership watched in awe as history was written by a woman's courage. When the dust settled, even her greatest critics couldn't deny the truth. God's power flowed through unexpected vessels. A prophetess under a palm tree had changed the course of a nation. What voices of wisdom do we ignore today because they don't match our expectations of what a leader should be?
Shalom and welcome to Zionlex TV. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and share the live stream. Become a member of Zionlex TV and unlock several hidden features and hidden videos. Also, you can donate to Zionlex TV at Cash App $Zionlex or via PayPal at zionlex@gmail.com. We also have an online academy entitled Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. Visit us on patreon.com/learntorah. Our gold tier membership gives you unlimited access to our special event lectures and our special live movie nights. Our Platinum tier gives you unlimited access to our Torah class, Kabbalah class, Patriarchs and Matriarchs of the Covenant classes, as well as understanding the New Testament via the Oral Tradition class. Our Diamond tier gives you unlimited access to all of the previous tiers, as well as our most sought-after class, our Biblical Hebrew course. And finally, our highest tier, our Sapphire tier, gives you unlimited access to all previous tiers, as well as our highly esteemed rabbinical course. Be sure to sign up today and check your tier membership so as to ensure you're getting access to the classes you desire. Thank you for visiting us here at Zion Lex TV, and now back to our current live stream.
Tearing down idols, and we cutting down poles. We calling back Israel to the hell we know. Throwing out crystals, we don't need these stones. And we ain't no gods, that's a job for y'all. All praise to the Most High. All praise to the Most High, Yahuwah. All praise to the Most High. All praise to the Yah Israel. Tearing down idols, we cutting down poles. We calling back Israel to the hell we know. We throwing out crystals, yeah. We don't need these stones. We ain't no God, that's a job for Yah. Cutting down poles, we're calling back Israel to the hell we know. We throwing out crystals, we don't need these stones, and we ain't no gods. That's a job for y'all. Everybody help me say all praise.
All praise to the Most.
I can't hear you say.
All praise to the Most.
Oh, all praise to the Most. Hey, all praise.